everyone, my name is Marina Chaveste, and this is my Compendium overview video on my capstone project, The Forgotten Population, exploring the relationship between social justice, human rights, and our aging population. Firstly, I wanted to do an about the author section. So I currently live in Southern California. I work in the social services field serving low-income older adults. I have a BA in sociology and a minor in Latin American studies, and I am passionate about promoting positive changes and serving marginalized populations. So some overview of what I'll be discussing. One, to highlight the needs of older adults and the lack of appropriate services. To examine the impact of intersectionality in older adults' lived experiences, and then ultimately promote awareness and advocacy to improve the lives of the most vulnerable population in the United States. So I wanted to add a quote here. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This quote has been a guiding light for both my academic journey and also my professional career as well. I do think it is important to recognize injustices. And when we think about older adults and their lived experiences, the needs of our seniors needs to be highlighted. And I do think that it's up to us as a collective to combat those injustices. And some statistics that I will be utilizing within my capstone. The first is, according to the World Health Organization, by the year 2030, 1 in 5 people will be age 65 or older. In 2023, 1.1 billion people in the world were age 60 years or older, and that figure is projected to nearly double to 2.1 billion by 2050. And then 9.2 million older adults struggle to make ends meet and face significant financial insecurity. So these three statistics I utilize throughout my capstone project and in certain pieces of my academic writing portfolio. However, I did want to put these here to emphasize the importance and the significance of this demographic. 9.2 million older adults struggling with financial insecurities should be a means of concern. And I do think, again, it's up to us as a collective to recognize that and help our seniors in any way that we can. And so throughout my course or my journey here within the Masters of Social Justice and Human Rights program, many of the courses that I took utilized the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a resource. And I wanted to emphasize Article 1, which states all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in the spirit of brotherhood. So when we think about older adults, I do think it is important to remember our human rights and what that means. And I do think that it is our, again, responsibility to ensure that human rights and the equity and dignity of those rights is maintained throughout the life course. And I do think there is a disconnect between the understanding of human rights and then what is allotted to our seniors. So some key terms that I will be going through. The first is intersectionality, second, silver tsunami, third, ageism, and then finally, social services. I dive deeper into each of these components within with my capstone. However, I am going to give a brief overview of each one. So the first, intersectionality, this term was originally coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, which essentially describes the overlapping social identities that influence our lived experiences. When we limit seniors based on their perceptions on age alone, we are shielding the impacts that our world systems have on older adults. It is imperative to look at all compounding factors of older adults to understand their lived experiences through the lens of intersectionality. So when we look at race, language, gender, location, class, disability, and age, we can see how these factors contribute to our seniors and how they possibly can interact and negatively impact the older adult. And then silver tsunami, this is a trend coined by many social scientists discussing the potential 2030 increase of older adults. And again, according to the World Census, by the year 2030, 1 in 5 adults will be 65 years or older. This is an important fact that needs to be understood by our world leaders and the general public so that we can continue to develop resources and support for our older adults. And I have 2 images here. The first is from the United States Census, which essentially illustrates the saturation of the current older adult population that we have within the United States. And the second is a simplified image that essentially illustrates the 1 in 5 statistic that we have been discussing thus far. Ageism is the practice of discriminating against individuals based on age and other aging characteristics. Ageism and its impacts on the day-to-day lives for seniors must be illuminated and repaired. The understanding of equality throughout the course of life is a critical insight that has since been left ignored. Just as a child is expected to have equal access to healthcare, food, safety, and any other components of a comfortable life, the same should be allotted for a senior in their 80s. And I have an image here that I have created where I asked my seniors how ageism impacts them. So we have things like lack of empathy, rejection, too old, mistreated, forgotten, excluded, invisible. So I do think that having an image of this stature is essential to further illustrate what's going on and how ageism does affect our older adults. And ultimately, it does initiate a call to change because I do think that there is a lack of awareness from how our words and certain perceptions and opinions do impact our seniors. And then social services. So here's some pictures of my wonderful seniors, and I do dive deeper again in this within my capstone as well. I also have a letter that I've written to my seniors, expressing my gratitude for allowing them for me to have access into their lives over the past 5 years. I also do want to emphasize too the importance of our governments and legislative and political leaders to understand how important it is to have access to critical programs that allow seniors to age in place. And so my role is primarily grant-based or donations-based. And without the support of our legislators and political figures, we wouldn't not have any of these programs here or activities that you see in these pictures. So I do want to emphasize as the population continues to grow, the importance and the funding for these programs needs to be multiplied as well. And so essentially, my work here, I want to be a call to action. In order to revolutionize the lives of our aging populations, we as a collective must initiate a dynamic approach. It is apparent that because of the lack of recognition of older adults' lived experiences, there is a disconnect between the functionality of world policies and the needs of older adults. This compendium will be utilized as a method of action to ensure that our aging populations are entitled to equality and access to human rights. Essentially, my work here is just a stepping stone into a larger problem at hand. And as you navigate through my capstone, I hope that the emphasis of change and the importance of combating these injustices is highlighted in each component. And I do encourage you to have an open mind and understand too that change can be accessed as long as we cooperate and recognize. And again, I do think that as a collective, it is our responsibility to care for our seniors. And I do think that as the population continues to grow in the coming years, as long as we cooperate with one another and generate positive changes, the future of our older adults can be changed. So again, here are some references. And I do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video today. I look forward to your insights. Please feel free to contact me. I have my contact information at the bottom of my About Me page in my capstone webpage. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.